Hi, my name is Beth Azor, and I own shopping centers in South Florida. And this is my podcast, I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? So today, it's March, and many of us have been working on and getting to the tenants their CAMRECs, CAM reconciliations. So I'm going to be a little basic here because some of you just bought your first shopping center. I'm hearing from a lot of you that you fell into or bought your first shopping center. And there's so many nuances and new things that you are experiencing. And just this week, I got 3 calls about CAMRECs. So I want to talk about that. So I apologize for some of you vets that are listening that this might be a little basic. So when you buy shopping centers, many times, and hopefully as much time as possible, your tenants' leases are fully triple net, meaning they pay a base rent of $15 a square foot, and then they pay a CAM, common area maintenance, taxes, and insurance, which, by the way, is also called operating expenses and pass-throughs. You know, there's many names for the extras that the tenants should be responsible for. And they include real estate taxes, insurance, utilities, security if you have it, maintenance, anything that you're spending to upkeep, maintain, and run the property in a fully triple net lease that gets passed through to the tenants. So in my portfolio, my triple nets, my CAMs, my operating expenses are running between $15 and $18 a square foot. Now remember, I don't have any supermarket anchored shopping centers. If you have a supermarket anchored shopping center and your anchor is, let's say, Publix, they do not pay their full pro rata share of maintenance. They might only contribute 50 cents towards a $4 per square foot maintenance. So what happens? The smaller tenants, the local tenants, the tenants that are not the grocery stores, usually there's a clause in the lease that says that they pay the shortfall. So for example, let's say the maintenance is $4 a square foot. And when I say maintenance, I'm excluding taxes and insurance. So let's say taxes are $5 a square foot and insurance is $2 a square foot and maintenance is $4. Maintenance is, again, utilities, grass cutting, porter service, roof repairs, all of that stuff. Management fee. So the anchor, the supermarket anchor, might say that they'll only contribute 50 cents. So for their 40,000 square foot space, there's $3.50 per square foot that is usually passed on to the local tenants. Now, if the maintenance is $4 and the other 20 tenants get their pro rata share of that extra $3.50 that the anchor does not pay, then their maintenance CAM might go from $4 to $5.50. Okay, so that is very prevalent in our industry, that the local tenants pay for what the anchor doesn't pay. Now, an unsophisticated local tenant might say, well, why is that? And the answer is, well, why did you pick this shopping center to come lease at? Well, I picked it because it's a Publix anchored center. Well, okay, that's why you're paying their pro rata share. Okay, you're paying your pro rata share of their expenses because you're here for their 1,000 people a week that go into the grocery store. If you don't want to pay their pro rata share, then go to the center down the street that has no anchor. Okay, so that is the argument, and that happens all the time. Now, if you believe your tenants cannot afford to pay the groceries, their share of the grocery share, you as the landlord can always cap, you can say, well, you only have to pay $4.75 instead of $5.50. You have the ability to do that, but just know that you will be eating the difference. Okay, anytime you give a cap. For example, I have 2 National Coffee tenant leases, and I made the mistake in both of them to not do full pass-throughs of garbage I have the garbage category in the maintenance category, and this national coffee tenant has a cap on their maintenance. So their cap is not as limited as the grocery store's cap of 50 cents, but their cap is maybe $2 with a 5% increase every year. So they say, we'll pay up to $2 and it's capped at 5%. So if for some reason my garbage costs skyrocketed the next year, I'm only able to pass through what the lease says. I made a mistake with that. I will never do that again. Garbage for me now is a non-controllable. In the world of CAMs, we've talked about this before, there's controllable costs. The landlord can control because you can bid it out, grass, maintenance, but there's uncontrollable. Taxes, can't control taxes, utilities, security. You're not going to pick the lowest bidder for security, so that's an uncontrollable. Another uncontrollable in Florida are hurricane cleanup expenses. If we have a hurricane and our entranceways are closed, I'm not picking the lowest bidder guy. I won't even get someone to bid. I've got to get the first guy that can come with the chainsaw and cut the trees down and open my entranceway. So that's an uncontrollable cost. And utilities is uncontrollable. And now I add garbage as an uncontrollable because many times the municipality's in charge of that and I can't bid it out. And in 2 instances right now, I am eating the landlord. I don't pass through another tenant's garbage to the other tenants. I don't do that. So I'm eating it as the landlord. So you need to be careful. And this is when you as the landlord need to be very astute when your leasing people are negotiating leases and saying, oh, well, if you want this tenant, you've got a cap CAM, you've got to be very careful and understand what that's going to do to your cash flow. Okay, so back to CAMRECs. Many people, the goal is always, in my world, to get them out between March and April. So basically what you're doing is the tenants, the prior year, you've given them an estimate and you've said the real estate taxes were $5, your insurance was $2, and your maintenance was $4. And they pay those estimates, quote unquote, all year long. Then at the end of the year, it's time for a true up. Well, insurance went up to $4. So now I've got to pass through an extra $2 to the tenant in a reconciliation. So all of the tenants get letters and they say, dear tenant, you paid, $10 for your CAM last year, your taxes, your insurance, and your maintenance, but it really cost us $12. So you owe the difference of $2. And please pay this as soon as possible. Some tenants, want backups. A lot of times the nationals play games with this. They ask for backups and backups and backups and backups. And all of a sudden, I've consulted with companies where I'm looking at their delinquencies and I see that major companies owe thousands and thousands of dollars. And I ask, what is this? And they go, oh, they're disputing the CAM. Well, what I say to them is, okay, if your CAM bill national was an extra $3 and you're 20,000 square feet, so that's $60,000, you're not disputing the whole CAM. Maybe you're only disputing $5,000 of it. Pay me the $55,000 and then we'll dispute the $5. So I'll 3-day nationals very quickly if I think they're playing games, which a lot of times they are. So back to the point that I want to get at. So the $2. So now the tenants get billed the $2. This is very, very important. You need to raise the estimate on the tenants for the new year. So for example, my CAM bills went out last week. So it is March. It's the first week of March. So dear tenant, here's your CAMREC. Your CAMREC is $2 a square foot more. And oh, by the way, your new rent is your base rent and your new CAM plus the $2. You owe January and February and March, and going forward, your rent will be X. And you need to be including the new estimates. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is when you do your budgets back in September and October, okay, it looks like our CAM's going up $2 because of insurance. So you can start in January, dear tenant, here's our new 2025 budget. we believe, last year our insurance went up, and we believe that will stay consistent. So your new CAMs are blank and you start January off fresh. There are some landlords that don't increase the estimates at all. So the landlord has three choices. One, don't increase the monthly estimates, and every year they have a CAMREC, and the CAMREC could be pretty substantial. Two, you increase after you do the CAMREC in March, you then increase the estimates and you go back and tell them they owe for January and February and then going forward. Or three, you do a budget and then you start right away in January with the new estimates. I have done all three. I'm a new partner in a deal where they never increase the estimates and they just always get a new CAMREC every year, and it's significant. Our tenants have gotten $4,000 and $5,000 bills, and that's a problem because a small local mom and pop tenant doesn't have $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 to pay that. So I'm changing the game. This year, I'm going to do the budget, and then in January 2026, we will send a letter increasing the estimates. And I'll explain why I'm doing this. And I'm telling them that now in my CAMREC meetings, because I'm warning them that their rents are going to go up in January, so that this will allow for them not having such a big CAMREC in the spring. I know this is a lot of information. I am happy to talk more about it in future calls. If you're interested, just send me specific questions so I know what it is that you want me to drill down in a little more. But yeah, it's CAMREC season. So, and sometimes people say, well, do you give them payment plans? So if I get sales reporting and I know they're killing it, I don't allow a payment plan. If I get sales and I know they're hurting, of course I'm going to allow a payment plan. It's all a negotiable thing, right? If someone would give me back their option, I'd waive it. But they're not going to do that for $3,000 or $4,000. So you are the landlord. You can make all kinds of decisions like that. But the nationals, I don't give a payment plan for the nationals. They have money. Pay your CAMREC. So that is everything you wanted to know about CAMRECs, but didn't ask. Hope you guys have a great week. See you next time.